Hi, this is Ro.
And Jenny with Hot Recruiting.
We're here to give you some hot recruiting tips.
And today we will be talking about
We're talking about interviewing and all the insider tips that you need to ace that interview.
So, what are some parts of the negotiating process that you didn't realize were part of the negotiating process? And it starts with like day one.
Yeah.
What are some questions or what are some things that you take into account and they will become things in the negotiating part once you have an offer?
Yeah. So during the interview, the recruiter is trying to gather the most information from the candidate, to showcase it to the hiring manager, but also to gain insight, when they're going to make that offer. So, for example, the recruiter may ask you why, like, what are the top three things you're looking for out of your next company? That's a big one. So let's say most people, I would say 90% of people that respond to this question usually will say stability, growth, work-life balance. Those are like the top three that come to mind that I hear continuously.
Those are important.
Yeah, and they're really important. I mean, most of the time, people are not leaving companies because, like, they're super happy. They're leaving because they're missing an element. Most of the time, it doesn't even have to do with pay. It has to do with these other factors, like the company is unstable, or, they're not having good work life balance, or they're not being able to grow there and be developed. So, sometimes it doesn't have to do with pay. It has to do with, like, I'm already getting paid what I want to be paid. It's just these other factors are missing.
Mm-hmm.
So I will always ask that before I ask the compensation. So once they tell me that, I'm always like, okay, if you had all these in place, what are you looking to make in order to take your next role? So I love having these in my notes when I'm negotiating from the candidate or from the recruiter's point of view, because if they're telling me, oh, like stability, my company just laid off 1,000 people, work life balance, I'm not, I'm working on the weekends, then when the negotiating comes to the table, um then I'm able to like pull that information. And if I'm not able to, I have budgets that I'm given. So like I could have a broad range, but if the hiring managers, I really only have like from the budget I got for the year, 100K to 110K to be able to spend on this role. That's ideally where I want to be in order to hit all our goals as a department for this year. Then I'm trying to stick to that. So if I can't go any higher, but I really want this candidate, those are the things that I will throw out there. I will say, like, hey, you mentioned work life balance. This role is 100% remote. You work from your house, you can work from a cafe. We provide all the equipment. I know you said that was really important to you. You're no longer going to have to be like spending 2 hours in your commute anymore. You're going to get those 2 hours back. Um, you're not going to have to go in to meet anybody. All our meetings are done remotely, virtually, over Teams. So I'll use that as my negotiating tool. Or if they said, stability, like, our company's been around for 100 years. I know you said that was really important to you. I can't get you up to the number you want, but I can, provide you with these other benefits, like, you know, they can increase the bonus a little bit more, but you're also getting this added benefit that you were really looking for. Because as a recruiter, it's like if they don't have another offer on the table, they're still thinking, if they're, if they weren't laid off part of that mass layoff, they're thinking like, should I just stay at my company?
Yeah.
So like I also want to remind them like, hey, you came looking for me because you weren't happy there and you were looking for these things. So even if your company comes back and counters and they're going to pay you 10,000 more than I can pay you, I've got all these benefits and all the stuff that was missing on like growth. Like you can most likely grow in 6 months. You could go to this position or you can move to that department. I want to make sure that they're seeing the value. Like I'm building enough value to cover what they said they were missing from their current company. So that's a lot of times why I'm asking those questions. I'm trying to get more insight on exactly why they're making a move. Like what are their motivations? Like I do ask that as well. I ask like why are you looking to me move? Like I'll ask them about their history, what they're doing there. And I'll usually say sounds like you're doing really well there. Like you've grown quite a bit. Why are you looking to make a move now? Or like change industries? Like I want to know what are the motivations that will help, like, one, me learn more about them, but also if it comes time for the negotiating, that I could really secure them in the place and get them hired.
So don't just answer whatever you see online that people say, like, just say these three things, answer them truthfully, make sure that it is addressing the needs and those are your motivations, because the recruiter is building up this report on you and taking notes on what's important for you. They want to make sure that you get it, but it's also going to be part of that negotiation process down the line.
Yeah, and also like I think of myself as a matchmaker, really, So like I ultimately want to make the candidate happy and my company happy. Like I want to pair the best person with the company and make sure it aligns and it's going to be a successful marriage. I don't want to have somebody just so that I can fill like my recruiting metrics and say, hey, I got the hire in 30 days. Like, if you're just going to leave in like 60 days, that's terrible for me and terrible for like the company, for retention, like for our, our
Culture.
culture, our reputation, if like people are just leaving once they get hired, like I want to make sure it's the best fit for you and for us. So, really, like Jenny said, it's great to be able to say, like, truthfully what you're looking for so the recruiter can really make the right match for you.
And at the same time, you can also build that rapport on the company and ask them the same questions. So, what are some things that stand out to you when people ask you the same questions during an interview? Or what are some ways that
Mm-hmm.
the person on the other side being interviewed and looking for the job, like how can they build that rapport to make sure that they can also negotiate
Yeah.
at the end?
Yeah, I think this is not used enough with candidates. I always tell them in the beginning of the interview, like, I'm going to ask you all my questions, but at the end of the interview, I'm going to leave some room for you to ask me questions. And usually they're like, you did such a great job. I don't have any questions. Like, you should always have these questions written down. Um, you know, where do you see the company in 5 years from now? Where can this role lead me to? Like, where do you see this role growing? What vision does the hiring manager have for this role? Like, what are they looking for? What do you love from this company? Like, what are your top three things that you love about the company? Like, why should I work for this company? Those are like top questions that I can think of that, like it is a two-way street. So you want to make sure that your questions are being answered and that you're like also seeing the value of why you would want to work there. Like this is not just the recruiter interviewing you. You're also interviewing the company. You're in your head. You should be like, I'm interviewing so many that can potentially like have such great candidate like myself. So I want to make sure that I'm picking the best one. So you want to ask these questions and see, like, are the things that I'm looking for, the stability, the growth, culture, like diversity, inclusion, like how do you foster diversity and inclusion at your company? Like, do you know what your numbers look like? Like, what are you looking to hire more of? Like, difficult questions like that for a recruiter that, like, really, if that's important to you, obviously you're not like, this isn't let's dump the recruiter. But like, if you're really like passionate about, like, oh, I'm a Hispanic female woman, that's very important to me. Yeah, we like want to know these things. If that aligns with, if you're just now getting started with diversity and inclusion, maybe that's not the company that I would want to join. So very important questions that will help you decide if that's a company you want to work for.
Awesome tips. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks, guys. Hope that helped you with our hot recruiting tips, and we will be back to bring you some more hot recruiting tips.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.